lie that has been told about Africa. And now, yeah, go on.
I think the biggest lie is something that all of us in Africa understand, which is that Africa is poor, right? Africa is not poor. If Africa was poor, we would never have been colonized. Nobody would ever, set foot here to extract anything. Africa is extremely rich, has always been extremely rich, and extremely rich today in potential, not just in resources. And that's precisely why we've been colonized. That's precisely why colonial forces have never left economically. And that's precisely why the geopolitical hierarchy perceives a huge threat from unleashing that potential. So we're intentionally being kept impoverished and divided and weakened precisely because we're rich and because the richness of the African continent.
Greetings, family. I hope you're doing fantastic, and it's always a pleasure to have you here in my channel. Before we dive into this video, I want to make one thing clear. Africa is not what the media has conditioned many to believe. For decades, the global narrative has painted Africa as nothing but a land of poverty, war, and struggle. But that image is incomplete and outright false. Africa is diverse, rich in culture, full of innovation, and home to some of the most beautiful landscapes and resilient people on earth. So today, we are going to react to a video that reflects the common misconceptions people still hold, and we are going to set the record straight. If you're new here, kindly consider subscribing so you don't miss any update from our videos. Let's dive into it.
You about to raise my blood pressure, because if it's one thing I'm gonna do, that's advocate for Mama Africa. Now let's talk about some of these preconceived notions. They want you to believe Africa is poor, dangerous, and broken. And that narrative is outdated and it's intentional. Africa is one of the most resource-rich continents on the planet, holding vast reserves of gold, diamonds, cobalt, rare earth metals, and the raw materials that power the global tech economy. Not to mention, it's also the youngest continent in the world. And 60% of its population is under 25, meaning it's literally the future of innovation, creativity, and labor is already taking shape across the 54 countries. Or is it 55 countries now? But anyway, it's also home to the oldest human fossil. Africa is the blueprint. It's the cradle of modern humanity. And a lot of people speak about Africa and treat it like it's one country, but the continent is vast, it's diverse. Over 2,000 different languages are spoken, hundreds of different cultures, and some of the fastest growing economies on earth. So when outsiders use these preconceived notions to convince you a place is hopeless, it's often because they want to exploit it while you look the other way. And when people tell us, go back to Africa, baby, I pack my bags gladly. But if you only know the Africa they show you, baby, you won't know Africa at all.
Don't go to Africa because Africa is dangerous. Aren't you getting tired of people saying that? I mean, I don't know why. It's like people that has never been to Africa before is always deeming Africa as being like this dangerous place. I mean, even though they have manipulated our mind for like the past decades about Africa and how Africa is so dangerous that as soon as you land, like somebody's going to fucking kidnap you. Do you not know that stuff here happens here too in the USA? I'm sorry to say, but every time I go to Africa, I feel more safe in Africa than I do over here in the USA. I mean, the people are like super friendly over there. The ambience of the restaurants are like to die for. I mean, everybody is hustling and minding their own business. Stop listening to people when people tell you that Africa is dangerous and like they're gonna just take off with you as soon as you get there. Stop listening to people who has never been or traveled outside of their hometown, let alone outside of the country.
What voting rights?
Yeah.
That we have less voting rights here. What about in Kenya, where pregnant women can't leave the house, so they absolutely have no constructive right to vote?
She's literally confidently lying about Kenya. And this is the problem. This is the same problem that Nas and Damien Mali were talking about. Mainstream media always putting the worst about Africa in display, trying to insinuate that Africa is a continent full of uncivilized, uncouth, and barbaric people. And they let such news go around in mainstream media with zero objection, and yet it is false.
Wait. Is this Africa? Wow, I didn't know South Africa was this beautiful. I mean, look at this. Look at everything. Look at the roads. Are so clean. I didn't know even Africa is fancy, modern. But sometimes I'm so like, South Africans, why do you keep everything like this for yourself? Why don't you share with us? I didn't know that Cape Town is this fancy and beautiful. I mean, oh my God, I don't know, look at that! It's so beautiful here.
The best decision I made, moving to Africa. Oh, they live in mud huts in Africa. For the ignorant, do my house look like a mud hut? For all my family who want to invest in Africa, come on over. Best move I made. Separation for me. I don't have to live under Mzungus. Build my own, like Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X said. Tanzania, East Africa, Dar es Salaam. See? This is what life about. In your ancestral land. Y'all better come home to Mother Africa. No racism, no stress. Chilling on my patio, looking at the palm trees, having a nice sip. This is what life about, baby. Let that America go.
Today is sadly my last day here in Kenya and also my last day here in Africa. What a crazy 2 months it has been. Bro, I have felt emotions I didn't even know a human could feel while being here, and I wouldn't change a single thing that I did. Biggest thing I'm taking away from this trip is that you don't need money to be rich. The people here are rich in ways that I would argue are more important than having money and being successful. Obviously, you need money to survive. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to be rich as in feel fulfilled. They're two very different things. Like, everything here is just so alive, bro. The people, the animals, the food, the music, the dancing. There's not a single person that you walk by here that you don't have a full-blown conversation with. And personally, that makes me feel so fulfilled. I don't know how I'm gonna go back to living in the UK after this. Kenya and Uganda have definitely left a stamp on my heart that I'm gonna carry with me for the rest of my life. The thing I will finish off on is, it's very cliche, but don't believe all the stereotypes that you hear. Come experience it for yourself, and I guarantee you will fall in love with the beauty that these countries have to offer. I'm literally living, walking proof. I don't want to go home.
We have the lie that all Africans live in mud huts. Now, of course, this lie is so outdated and honestly so ridiculous that it doesn't really hold much weight anymore.
I remember talking to my one coworker who is an American white man, and I had braids at the time, so he was asking me about my braids. And I was like, yeah, I basically grew up wearing them because I grew up in Senegal in Africa for a couple years, and it's super popular there. And this man goes, oh yeah, I imagine it's probably great for like hygiene and like sanitary purposes too, right? What do you mean by that? I was explaining protective styles and the fact that curly hair is actually very delicate and they shouldn't just be exposed to all the elements at all times. And he was like, well, you know, because they don't really have access to clean water, you know, I imagine they can go like a couple months without really needing to like wash it since it's in braids. I had to politely explain that women in Africa do have access to clean water. Obviously, there's a lot of families and a lot of children who are really struggling, but it's not the case for everybody who lives there. But women aren't braiding their hair because they only have like one little bar of soap that they have to spare for the entire year. They're getting that hairstyle because it's cheap, it's convenient, and it looks great. While we're on the topic of hygiene, like before you call African like women like, you know, unsanitary, which he didn't do that, but like a lot of people have this misconception that Africans are like dirty. Meanwhile, my Senegalese friends were some of the cleanest women I have ever fucking met, ever. When I started college in the United States of America, the horrors that I had to see in the dorm shower stalls, used tampons taken out when they were taking a shower. You go to the kitchen and there's crusted up oatmeal in the bowl that's been sitting there for months. Let's go to a pregame. Oh, what is that? Underwear on the fucking floor with like crusted up discharge in there. Yes. Filthy. I've been like so busy. I haven't like showered since like last Wednesday. You have a vajayjay. You need to shower. And last but not least, let's not forget a couple hundred years ago, who had to teach who how to properly bathe. Yeah.
Africa is not a poor continent. To the contrary, it is rich with strategic resources. It holds half of the world's minerals, including abundant rare earths, and 60% of arable lands that are often not utilized. Africa is not a poor continent, but it has been often, and still is, an exploited continent. Too often, the interventions of foreign nations on the continent have not respected local realities. Often the approach was predatory, and in spite of this fact, even paternalistic. We must change course. Italy wants to contribute to the construction of a model of cooperation capable of collaborating with African nations so they may grow and prosper from the great resources they possess. A cooperation from equal to equal, because Africa needs no charity, but to be put in the condition to compete on an equal footing on strategic investments that can tie our futures together with mutually beneficial projects.
What did you say? It doesn't look real? It doesn't look real. It looks like we're in Angola. There you go. There you go. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, this is unreal. Pretty and girl. Hey, pink over here. And so where are you guys at? Are you in the Caribbean? No, it seems like we are. Sunny South Africa. I've heard that somewhere. No, that's because we got a proper tour. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Emphasis on the proper. Excellent, excellent. Haven't been treated this good in our life ever. Whoa! I got that on tape. So this is where we are, guys. This is incredible.
I never really understood why did people. It's time to unlearn the lies and relearn the truth. Africa is not a monolith of poverty and despair. It is 54 countries, each with its own strength, history, and beauty. The world needs to stop viewing Africa through a colonial updated lens. We are not begging for validation, we are reclaiming our story. So next time someone talks down on Africa, you better ask them, have you seen the real Africa? Or just the one they have been shown? Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. If you found value in what you shared, please consider subscribing and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates from our videos. Your support really means a lot and it helps us keep bringing you more insightful content. Thanks again and see you in the next one.